Hi and welcome back to the HMT automatic rebuild. Just prior to the rebuild, I'm just going to show you some images which are through the lens of a stereo microscope, and this is to demonstrate why you have to be careful with these all-in-one rinse and lubrication solutions. Now, especially if you look at the large jewel here, you can really see the dirt that's accumulated, and what happens when there's dirt in a movement that isn't removed, it remains in the movement and then fresh oil accumulates on that, and it effectively turns into a grinding paste, making the situation worse than it would if it was left without adding additional oil or just trying to roughly clean. So the image quality is not the best, unfortunately, because this was taken by holding my phone over the microscope, which is a relatively new acquisition. It's a very cheap one, and I do need to get a phone holder. Now, this particular bit here is the difference after it's gone through the cleaner. You can obviously see the difference in the plate, but also in the cleanliness of the jewels themselves. Hopefully that comes through. It's I was trying to use the light there to backlight that one, but I clearly need to have a bit more practice on taking images through the microscope there, but hopefully you can see the difference. So we begin the reassembly with the main plate and fitting the center wheel after oiling the center wheel jewel. We oil the upper pivot point. When fitting center wheels, I tend to oil the actual shoulder of the center wheel rather than the jewel itself, but many other people do it the other way around and it works perfectly fine. So the second wheel bridge is fitted. And this is secured with its two retaining screws. Next to be fitted is the reassembled mainspring barrel, and I haven't shown the reassembly of this because it's effectively a case of a very light coating of grease on the mainspring and oiling the barrel arbor, and I use D5 typically, but you can use grease on the barrel arbor. The escape wheel is then wriggled into place underneath the second wheel bridge, then the third wheel, and then the fourth wheel after the shoulder of the fourth wheel is oiled. Next to be fitted is the click and the tension spring assembly, which fits onto the same post and is secured by the same screw. And here I'm lubricating the mounting post for the reduction wheel. which winds the mainspring via the automatic works. Barrel arbor is lubricated with D5 in this case. As a general rule, if a barrel arbor is jeweled, or a barrel arbor hole is jeweled rather, I tend to use D5. If it's metal on metal, I will typically use grease 8300. Once in place, the bridge is secured with its 3 securing screws. Checking, of course, that all the pivots are located and everything runs securely. And here I'm fitting the crown wheel, remembering that it has the bushing which it fits over first. This is likewise lubricated, and then the crown wheel itself fits over this, and the hole is secured by the large screw with left hand thread. The ratchet wheel is fitted next, and this likewise is secured by the large securing screw, also with left hand thread as mentioned during the disassembly video. Just a small rotation there to make sure that everything is engaging as it should and the train of wheels is spinning freely. Here we're lubricating the jewels for the train of wheels using 9010. And that's the 3rd, 4th and escape wheels accordingly. At this point I'm replacing the shock system, the jewels for the balance. This particular shock system is the Citizen Miyota Parashock system, it is referred to, and as mentioned, it's very unique in its own right. The chaton actually has a sprung holder for the jewel with an unusual shape, and then the cap jewel is retained within its own square-sided holder with two lugs which lock it into place. Hopefully that's visible enough here. The first time you encounter one of these, it does look somewhat tricky, but it is actually surprisingly easy, and it's a very well behaved shock system. It's easy to remove and refit. Here I'm refitting the first reduction wheel for the automatic works, the one that the oscillating weight bears onto, and this is the lower portion of the split system that I did mention in the disassembly video. And when it was removed in the disassembly video, the whole thing came out as a complete piece, which can happen because they stick together. But what you have are serrated teeth, just exactly as you would have on your winding pinion to clutch connection. And prior to fitting that, a small amount of D10 was added to the tension, the spring underneath. And what happens with this is it allows that wheel to rotate and wind the barrel in one direction, but the shape of the teeth, being the same as on a winding pinion, will allow it to slip and lift in the other direction. And the tension spring and this little clip which fits on the top ensures that that operates as it should. A very simple but very clever mechanism. Moving on to the dial side, we're refitting the keyless works. This will allow us to add wind to the mainspring barrel. Because the mainspring barrel on these use a left-handed thread, it's not really feasible to manually wind them using a screwdriver as you can with many other watches. So it is rather important that the keyless works are installed to allow you to do this. And after fitting the yoke and the setting lever spring, I'm just greasing the relevant contact points, the metal to metal contact points, and remembering of course the setting lever is fixed in place and cannot be removed, but the stem where it passes through the movement is lubricated as normal with D5. Going back to the movement side, we fit the pallet fork and the pallet bridge. And with this in place, we can add some wind to the mainspring barrel and check the action of the pallets. Once I'm happy with that, I can go ahead and refit the balance. And that starts beating away nicely. It's always good to see. And with the balance refitted, I can then continue to refit the chaton and cap jewel on the balance side. Now moving back to the dial side, we're going to start refitting the calendar works. The one-piece calendar advance wheel, which is held by its single screw. And then we can go ahead and refit the motion works. You'll see that the cannon pinion has already been refitted. For some reason I didn't have footage when I edited this video of refitting that. I'm not sure why that was, but it is just a very straightforward, conventional oil the pivot of the second wheel and snap the cannon pinion into place. So the minute wheel, hour wheel and the intermediate wheel for the calendar works all just simply drop into place with the relevant posts lubricated. And then with a small amount of D10 on the riveted pivot of the day advance wheel, this whole plate is fitted in place and this secures the motion works wheels in place. This is held by 2 screws. And here I'm just having a quick test to ensure that everything is rotating and it is actuating the day wheel advance star as well. Next to be fitted is the calendar ring, followed by the calendar ring jumper spring, and then the day wheel advance jumper spring. A small amount of lubrication is applied to the relevant contact points of the jumper springs. Apologies that my loop is obscuring the video at that particular point. Fitting the day wheel jumper spring is a little bit fiddly and tricky, and does take a little bit of manipulation to get everything in place, but once it's there, it sits there quite nicely, and you can drop on the cover plate and secure this with its 3 small screws. The day wheel drops on and is rotated until the jumper spring, rotated in reverse, that is, until the jumper spring locks into place, and then the C-clip which secures this can be snapped in place like so. A quick test here to make sure that the day and the date advance as they should. And then we can go ahead and refit the dial. As mentioned in the previous video, this particular dial is from another watch that I had with a movement which had a lot of wear and wasn't particularly good. It's a much better dial than the one that came on this particularly clean movement. At this point the hands are fitted in the conventional manner, aligning them accordingly. And obviously you can see we've skipped forward there and the minute and seconds hand have been fitted. That's rotated a couple of times just to check the operation, and then the watch can be cased up again. The final part to be fitted is the oscillating weight. This drops into place on its post, and then the central section with its two flat sides is turned into place and is tightened here carefully using the sturdy tweezers as mentioned before. And then a small amount of D5 is applied to the ball bearings in a couple of places. And with that done, the only thing remaining is a new seal and refit the case back. And that completes the reassembly of the HMT Rajat with its 6501 automatic 21 dual movement. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.